I'm running! If she catches you, you're dead! You're falling behind, Mom! So, it was just an old woman going for a run.
Hey, what happened? I thought you could use your psychic powers to move really fast, Shigeo.
What are you crying about?
I run all the time, and I lost to an old woman.
This is Mob Psycho 100, and this is one of the greatest shows ever made. No, I am not kidding. I am completely serious. I'm not saying it's one of the best cartoons ever. I'm not saying it's one of the best comedies ever. I'm saying it's one of the best shows ever made, period. Please allow me to explain. It's difficult to pin down exactly what makes this show so good because there's a lot of layers to it that need to be unpacked. On the surface, it may seem like a goofy, slapstick comedy no different than his sibling series One Punch Man, a hilarious superhero parody in which the protagonist is already far stronger than any villain he encounters. With both stories being created by the same man, simply known as One, it would be easy to conflate the two as the same thing. However, where One Punch Man stops at being a clever action comedy, Mob Psycho 100 goes far deeper. Sure, it still does the comedy and it does it very well, having wit so clever and subversive that it'll still have you laughing even if you are on your deathbed.
Laugh! Come on, you little brat! Laugh it up already!
It does the funny very well, and that's the first thing you'll notice when you watch it, but it also does creepy, epic, wholesome, philosophical, tragic, and so much more all seamlessly at the same time, perfectly blending multiple genres like a well-choreographed dance. Mob Psycho 100 is a story about a young boy nicknamed Mob, a word which essentially means a person without character in Japanese. So in other words, he's an NPC.
Cram school.
I don't attend.
Do you study?
Not particularly.
Any hobbies? Don't you have anything at all you want to do?
Mob here is a remarkably uninteresting person. He isn't particularly talented, he's never really accomplished anything, and he doesn't really have any aspirations outside of holding hands with his childhood crush. Oh, and he just so happens to be the most powerful being on the planet. You see, in this fictional world, there are many superpowered people known as psychics that are in an eternal war with evil spirits, and Mob is the most powerful amongst them. Though in spite of this, Mob doesn't really value his powers all that much. Why? Because his crush doesn't find them interesting.
I'm only showing you these things, Tsubomi. I'm getting bored.
So instead, Mob goes about life trying to build up his other characteristics, such as confidence and athletics, in order to become more popular and win over her affection. All the while, a villainous threat looms in the background.
Who are you?
Huh? Oh, I'm nobody.
You idiot! You're Mob, and you are the student of the new star of the paranormal world, Reagan Artaga!
While in his quest for popularity, Mob seeks to better control his powers by seeking the help of an expert psychic known as Reagan. Reagan gladly gives Mob inspiring advice and takes him under his wing as his student. However, he is a complete fraud with no powers of his own whatsoever.
You seem to have it under control, so I didn't think that you'd need my help.
Idiot! Who do you think's gonna I mean, this is nothing, really. But stick with me so you can learn something.
You're amazing, Master.
He is a con man that only wishes to use Mob for personal gain. Though this is where Mob Psycho 100 excels, because Reagan's character goes far deeper than that. Despite being a fraud, he still actually has a lot of valuable wisdom to share with Mob, such as teaching him that his powers don't make him better than anyone, and that he should never use them to harm others. Since Reagan knows nothing about being a psychic, he simply teaches Mob lessons about being a good person. It's not quite the help that Mob was looking for, but it keeps him on a good path regardless. Reagan's behavior extends to all people he encounters in his life, as he comes across many desperate customers that seek his help in exorcising evil spirits. But since he can't do that, he helps them in other ways, such as giving them massages or photoshopping ghosts out of their pictures. It's not exactly the help they're looking for, but he at least tries to leave them satisfied in some way, even if it's not the way they want. His experience as a con man has also given him a sharp wit that actually often comes in very handy when real danger is present.
While you're watching this slowly swing back and forth... Here goes his punch!
This show's villains and how they get dealt with are also rather unique. Alongside evil spirits, there are also a number of evil psychics who wish to use their powers for malicious purposes, such as world domination. Though, since Mob is generally far more powerful than most of them, the battles are never really about strength or winning. Instead, they turn into battles of maturity and growth. Due to Mob's unorthodox life experience, he has learned that superpowers are just one aspect of a person, no different than one's hygiene or hobbies. Having them doesn't make you better than anyone, since you'll still be flawed and they aren't enough to make you a well-rounded person. So, when this mere child effortlessly slaps down these world-conquering extremists, he makes them realize just how narcissistic and immature they really are, and he forces them to grow up and do something more beneficial for society.
This planet should put me on a pedestal and worship me! That is the only world that is worthy of me!
Wrong. Having psychic powers doesn't make you popular.
See? There you have it.
Though as enemies appear in more powerful and devious ways, the show takes a turn for the philosophical and asks questions like, is anyone too far gone to be saved? Or if our life experience turned out differently, would we be just as capable of becoming evil? It's constantly surprising just how dark, mature, and real this seemingly goofy cartoon can get. The lessons it covers and teaches are often profoundly relatable and applicable to one's own life. There are people out there who have better looks, more money, or more power than you, but that doesn't mean that they are inherently better than you, and if you see yourself as one of these people, then it's time to change. Because everything fades, and any perceived power or status will not last as everyone gets surpassed eventually. Alternatively, Mob and his friends may experience their own personal growth in these encounters. In order to maintain his powers, Mob suppresses his emotions, which is generally why he's so unremarkable. But as time goes on and as his problems build up, he will reach a point in which his full power will explode alongside his emotions when he reaches 100%, hence the 100 in the show's title. When these explosions erupt, they generally come with the point of learning, as Mob will learn more about himself, how to interact with others, or how to manage certain life struggles. Though, as deep and profound as that might be, this isn't even really what the show is about. Dealing with villains is just the B story. At its core, the true purpose of this show is about Mob and how he grows as a person, with this story flexing some of the most genuine and well-written character development ever made.
If you want to resolve these troubles, come with me.
I can't. I have to head home.
You'll be popular.
Okay, let's go then.
Mob starts out the show as a hopeless, purposeless dope that constantly gets taken advantage of and makes countless foolish mistakes. But as the show goes on, we watch him learn and evolve to become a mature, well-rounded human being in a subtle and gradual manner. It's a difficult journey as he always remains flawed and even gets lost on the wrong path at times, but it's surprisingly grounded and relatable, so much so that Mob could even serve as an example for how people could better themselves in their own personal lives. As Mob grows, he not only changes himself, but his mission also affects the world around him, as intentionally or not, he helps others see the flaws within themselves, and when he begins to prosper from his efforts, others will be inspired to follow his example. The world around him is also very captivating and definitely worth mentioning, as it is packed full of fun and interesting side characters, such as Dimple, an evil spirit that has tricked Mob into thinking that he changed his ways, but is secretly waiting for the right moment to possess Mob's body and steal his great power. There's also Ritsu, Mob's brother, who is essentially his opposite. Unlike Mob, Ritsu is athletic and popular, yet he has no powers of his own. While the two have a healthy relationship, their differences brew a quiet resentment that builds over time in profound and subversive ways. Then we have Teru, who is essentially Mob's rival, being a boy who managed to use his powers to take advantage of others and gain popularity. He may not be as powerful as Mob, but his social skills are far greater. That about covers the main cast, though there is a litany of so many other amazing characters that there are too many to mention in just one video, although an honorable mention should go to the legendary Body Improvement Club, but you're better off just watching them in the show for yourself, as no words I could say could properly describe just how great they are.
Say no to violence.
I should also discuss elements of the show's production, because there are many other aspects that make it great outside of the story, one of which is the music. It is so good that it's playlist worthy, and while I can't necessarily show off the music here for copyright reasons, I'll at least tell you that it's made by the Mob Choir, a music group made up by several professional artists, as well as many members of the production crew, from voice actors to animators to directors, all singing along together. That level of passion and investment in a project like this is rare to find in today's world. It's also worth noting that the sound design and voice acting is always very on point and well made throughout, in both the English and Japanese dubs. And now it's time to discuss the elephant in the room, that being the show's animation and art style. It is very bizarre, almost reminiscent of an old school MTV skit. The reason it's like this is because 1. The original creator is a notoriously bad artist. One Punch Man was re-illustrated to solve this issue and give the show a more mainstream appeal, but Mob Psycho embraces its original look, since its unorthodox yet innocent nature fits in perfectly with the story style and themes. However, don't let the show's wild looks fool you into thinking this is a cheap production, because it is far from it. Mob Psycho 100 boasts some of the smoothest animation you will ever see. Its wacky style can easily make you laugh, but its fight scenes will have you in awe, being some of the best animation sequences the world has to offer.
Aren't you gonna shoot?
Even when nothing particularly exciting is happening, every frame presents eye-catching, thought-provoking imagery that tells a story in and of itself. Now with that all said, Mob Psycho still has some flaws, as no show is truly perfect. Among other things, there are a few subplots that can get boring or aimless. I'm looking at you, weird alien episode that has nothing to do with anything. There are also a few too many fake out moments that only exist to drum up cheap shock value. However, despite these flaws and others, Mob Psycho 100 more than makes up for its cons with an overwhelming list of pros.
One moment it's an action flick, one moment it's a wholesome slice of life show, one moment it's a horror story, but it all somehow fits together so smoothly and isn't jarring in the slightest. It blends genres so well that it's sure to have something for everyone, and I can't recommend it enough. One last note is that it sticks the landing. In a modern world of entertainment packed full of sloppy, poorly written, or non-existent endings, it is extremely refreshing to tell you that Mob Psycho 100 maintains its excellent quality from start to finish. I've been wanting to talk about this show for a long time, but I first had to make sure that it didn't flop at the finish line like so many others before it, but thankfully I endorse it with a guaranteed satisfying end. In conclusion, it is a good show, go watch it.